Status and revocation of the lease and ranching permit. I was saying that permits can be revoked. And the first condition under which permits can be revoked is about security. If a ranch constitutes a security risk for whatever reason, the permit can be revoked without notice. That's principle. No ranch, because a lot of major reason why the ranching law was put in place is that Benue State should have a much better security. There was a time where insecurity associated with livestock farming became about 90% of all the insecurity in Benue State. So the law was needed to make sure that that was removed. If you want to grow your livestock in Benue State, let it not come with so much insecurity. So security matters to us a lot in Benue State. Then, of course, interest of peace. If for any reason there is a tension created by the ranch, and usually that is where somebody is now overstretching an advantage. If for any reason the ranch is no longer bringing about peace and it is creating problems within the community, the permits can be removed or that ranch can be relocated, just like I've already explained. Then, of course, breach of any term or condition of the leasehold. Usually the terms are long and the guidelines are given by the Department of Agriculture. Like I said, you are permitted to put structures in your ranch. But the department also monitors the people that come to the ranch. You will identify your workers. So the Department of Agriculture cannot suddenly see that you now have about 200 people on your ranch that are not connected to cattle rearing or pig farming or goat farming or whatever. So the Department of Agriculture has a right to, once in a while, enter into your ranch to check what is going on there. If they discover that somehow you are breaching the conditions. For instance, if you have a ranch and suddenly you start mining on the ground, because you can actually take a ranch because you know there are solid minerals on the ground, but you didn't take the ranch for mining solid minerals. So if you start mining in your ranch for solid minerals, of course, the leasehold will be removed. So there are many reasons why after a ranch permit has been given that things like that can be done. Then, of course, overriding public interest as stipulated by the Land Use Act. Usually for any law, there's what is called overriding public interest. If for any reason, for instance, you have a ranch and the federal government wants to set up a university in that area, and the state government begs you, say, please, we will need to shift you. There's nothing bad about that. So there are circumstances where you could be in a position with your ranch and you could still be moved. Or for any infringement and infraction, the leasehold could be withheld. Section 12 is a prohibition of sale of leased land, which is also very straight. When you lease something, you don't sell it to any other person. So it's a very clear thing. Then eligibility to enter on ranches. As I've already said, the ranch owner and his workers can operate freely in their ranch. The customers can operate freely there. But there are certain persons who do not just go in. And this is put there because of criminal elements, particularly cattle rustlers. You find people who just move into a ranch wherever cattle or goats are kept or donkeys or horses are kept, and then they make away with those animals. So this section is to protect the ranch owner so that people do not just wander in and out. If they don't have any business entering your ranch, there's no reason why they should be there. Somebody cannot just, for instance, come and say that he's relaxing in your ranch. You cannot just walk into a ranch and say you want to hold you clear a place and put up a tent. You can't go into a ranch and say you want to farm. So permits must be given before you enter any place that is called a ranch. Then, of course, all ranches are to have something demarcating the periphery. And in most cases, it's a form of a fence. It could be a wooden fence. It could be iron fence with barbed wires. It could be mud fence. It could be concrete fence, whatever kind of fencing, as long as it is demarcated at the periphery to separate it from the other surrounding premises. Because if you don't put a demarcation, physical blockade, the animals will wander off that place. And then it now becomes another form of open grazing, which creates a problem. Section 15 talks of prohibition of unauthorized entry into ranches. So it gives the different aspects of unauthorized entry, like I've already said. The no person, like they said, when you already have a ranch, you cannot cut off a part of the ranch. The legal people say alienating any part of it, of the land. You cannot cut off a part of a ranch and start using it for some other purpose. If you have gotten land for ranch, it must be for ranch. If you have a ranch and you intend now to do a lot of mango farming in the ranch, it is not permitted because mango is a tree crop and it's a perennial crop. It's not something, if you grow groundnuts to give to your livestock, fine. If you grow further there, you grow grass, that's okay. But when you start growing things that are permanent on the ranch, it is no longer permitted. So there are things like that because of details of how the usage could abuse the law as it goes on. Then, of course, Section 16 talks of liability of owner of trespassing livestock. That now is about punitive measures. The law says very clearly that if your livestock wanders freely and enters into other people's property, then you are liable to a fine, particularly if they damage the property. If they don't damage the property, the mere fact that your livestock is wandering out of control is a crime. Crime number 2 is they damage people's property. Crime number 3 is they wound a person, physical injury to a human being or to their property. Number 4 is if somebody dies, and all the prescriptions of whatever fines are supposed to be given, and the punishments are stated in that section. Then temporary structures, wells, reservoirs, and other improvements. I've already mentioned these two, that you are permitted to put temporary structures, not permanent structures. For instance, you cannot put up a story building in a ranch. But if you want to have a small place, a shade, a shelter for your workers and all that, fine. All those ones are permitted. Then Section 18 that I've been mentioning, this is a section that anybody who wants to get familiar with the law needs to look at because it gives a lot of details as to what the Department of Agriculture does with the owner of the ranch. And that's why I took...
We learned that some of the department that is responsible for this law also pack cattle indiscriminately anyhow.
Not indiscriminately. The law says there's under offenses, prohibition of movement of livestock on foot. If you move with your livestock on foot into Benue State, the department and particularly the security arm of this law, the enforcement arm of this law, they catch your livestock and they keep them. If within 7 days you don't come to claim them, they auction the animals. So the law is very clear. They tell you don't wander around. If you wander around, the livestock will be arrested. And you are placed on notice. You know that they will show you where they are being kept. There's a holding place. They take the livestock, keep them in a particular place, and tell you within this number of days. And you see, they can't keep the livestock forever because they might start dying. Diseases could come in, and all kinds of things could happen. So they have a limited period, 7 days, come and pay the fine. And there are various fines. For the first offender, that is anybody just found wandering, 500,000 naira fine, or 1 year imprisonment, or both. For the second offender, 1 million naira fine, or 3 years imprisonment, or both. That is if your livestock is just wandering anyhow. Then livestock owners, managers, and ranchers shall not possess firearms, whether it's licensed or unlicensed on the ranch. That is one of the major aspects of the law, and I think a lot of the people who are opposed to this law is part of what they are also opposed to. They do have their weapons, and they want to have the weapons as they are going with their animals. And Benue State law says, no, if you have a ranch, then get a security outfit to handle. Not you yourself with your own AK-47 becoming the guard. Because wherever, particularly when you are wandering all over the place. So if you are caught moving with animals in Benue State with any kind of weapon, whether it is licensed or not licensed, you have broken the law. So if you want to move with weapons along with your livestock, then get the police, civil defense, or any of the security agencies, whether private or public, as long as it is a security agency and it's not you, the owner of the livestock, that is carrying the weapon, you are okay. But if it's the owner or your workers that are carrying weapons, then as far as you are concerned, you are just terrorists in Benue State.